Hello there, this is Klaud, and I'm Eric Elliott, and I'm here with my guest, Ben. Now, Ben, would you like to explain to the people how we know each other?
Well, we met this year at the 2025 Baltimore Comic Con. I drew a little bit of attention to myself by being in a full bright yellow and black Mandalorian costume kit that I had spent the better part of 3 years putting together.
hmm And I ran up to you, or next to a pillar, like you were adjusting your mask. I could see like your beard hair like poking through, and like I was just like, "Hey, I see you're a Star Wars fan very clearly. Would you like to do a mini interview from our channel?" And I was like, of course, I was wearing my shirt. It's like I have the show called On Squad, and you're like, "Okay, just give me like 5 minutes," and we're desperately trying to find a good place to record. And we're just like, "Okay, let's go to that wall. Let's put
Yeah.
your little tripod on my luggage, and maybe work from there." And I'm like bending over and kneeling to like try to get the little microphone. It wasn't even my regular phone I was using. I was using a different phone just so it has
Mm.
the little phone jack that I could use.
I'm in a similar boat with mobile uh, computer stuff. Like I'm always, I guess, overthinking what I might potentially need for like whatever it is I'm doing, which is one of the reasons why I'm sitting in. I'll actually give a little bit of framing here myself. I'm sitting inside of my man cave podcast studio rather than where I was going to be before,
Mhm.
because I said, there's no way I'm going to remember to take everything that I'm going to need because it's been so long since I packed the kit up that I said, let's just sit right down in the studio and just do this.
Yeah. Now, it's not very often that you bump to essentially a stranger and they're like, "Yeah, I'll do an interview," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll be on your podcast like a month from now." What was it about me? You're just like, you know what? I'm cool with him. Was it just my passion, or
It
was
was,
it my
I think
jokes?
your passion was definitely part of it. I think the fact that you asked me a question about something that I had recently been doing just sort of rabbit hole research on, like with the Zilla Beast,
Mm.
as it tied into the what's Ray's base code conspiracy, like what flavor is Ray, like how can we, like what are the different, like, oh, I get I have a hint of is that Grogu in the back there, and
Mm.
some almonds, and I think asphalt.
I just happened to have the right kind of combination of ideas. It's just like,
It was
ooh, okay,
synchronicity.
I'm down. I'm down to talk about this because I'm not going to be able to find almost anybody else that's going to be able to follow the madness.
Right, follow the red strings on the Pepe Sylvia wall.
Now, if you watch the video I uploaded, I thought it was going to be out in a week. There was a lot
Yep.
of audio issues I had to deal with. Like I had to actually put it into a real computer and to like strip away like the noise.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyway,
And
uh,
isolate the speech and whatnot.
yeah. So like, if you watch the video, then you've also bumped into my Star Wars conspiracy saying that the Alien franchise is in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
um there are places where I can see where it could align, especially after the events of Ahsoka and them starting to decide. And I know that this has been said out loud, but I don't know what the plans are yet for the show. But they are going to be doing like Disney, Star Wars horror. There is going to be a
Mm.
horror centric Star Wars show because it's one of the things Sigourney Weaver's actually said. In funnily enough, we're talking about aliens,
The Alien, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but one of the things that she said in a recent interview was about how they're sort of starting like to move away from the saga storytelling tactic, of telling like,
Right.
okay, here's Skywalker's whole story, Anakin
Mm.
into his son, and then Ray taking on the mantle.
Right.
Which I will say is not entirely out of place, considering that there is some sort of connection between, you know, uh, Palpatine overtly creating Anakin and then sort of like We don't know the mechanism of that. Like it's been implied that it's sort of like, you know, fiat from afar, but I mean, I still think in some way he's like Anakin's father for all intents and purposes. So it isn't too far fetched that Rey gets to be a Skywalker by right, you know. But I mean, she's just not related to Shmi directly, unless there's a little bit. We don't know what happened to Luke's hand anymore in canon. There could be straight up Skywalker blood in her.
Right.
I mean, there's no reason to think the Emperor wouldn't have been like, all right, the Falcon got away. Yo, go get that hand. Do not come back, Vader, because you fucked up again. Don't come back without that hand.
Now, you realize that if they retcon Rey to have like partial Skywalker genetics, that means that Star Wars once again has stumbled ass backwards into incest again with her kissing Leia's child.
But instead of stumbling backwards into brother sister porn, twincest, if you will, you know, it's more of a
cousin situation.
Yeah, it's more of a Targaryen sort of thing, and I think that the Skywalkers are just sort of the Targaryens in a sense. I mean, you know, if anybody's riding dragons and it's not Mandalorians, it's probably a Skywalker level, like Omega level Force user. You know, Anakin actually, when Vader rode the big thing, the big one that almost ate the Falcon in the maw, he rode one of those things in the comics after facing it. Like he didn't tame it, he willed its mind to be under his control. Yeah, the Vader comics that's a rabbit hole worth exploring because it's all canon as far as Disney is concerned. So they get into a lot of his Vader has so much going on between the end of Empire Strikes Back and the beginning of the Return of the Jedi that it makes it's like how there's never a long enough time for this man to get like, you know, his little RoboCop baby food is and a power, you know, and a new battery, you know, whatever, and sit for a while in that meditation chamber and think about Padme and cry, whatever it is that he does to center himself again, you know, in his pain, you know, while sneaking in the skin treatments in the bacta tanks when the Emperor's not looking.
If you read the comics, you realize that in between the movies, Vader never gets a vacation time.
Yeah, not even a smoke break, man. Like, see, that's the thing. If he had taken up smoking like in a restaurant, like he would have immediately been like, "Oh yeah, no, you can go take your smoke break." When before, that's why I started smoking at 18. I worked in restaurants as a dishwasher. And I really quickly figured out the only break I was going to get is if I got a cigarette break. So I bummed a cigarette off of a line cook, and that started me down the chain that ended 15 years later.
See, Vader Anakin seems like the character that if they could smoke or would smoke in the universe, they would be doing it while working and endangering the food from getting cigarette ash. You know, just like one of those rundown diners like out in the country where they don't care.
Yep. And if they had the you know, the 510 cartridge, threaded cartridge, which is used for both nicotine and other things, but it's also used for, because of nicotine, the propylene glycol. You can use those to make cosplay foggers, like that. You don't have to have like a whole big, you know, like a theater fog machine. You can have a fogger that is literally no bigger than this thing, and when you activate it, wherever you have directed the fog, you know, like if you have hoses and whatnot, it'll come out there. And I guarantee you, if they had access to that tech back during 77 and through 83, Vader would have been drenched in vape. Just would have been exuding out of his suit at all times. It would have been an awesome effect. Because they could do it in a small scale, you know, like taking off the helmet, you know, and having little jets come off, you know, stuff like that. But they didn't have, but that was because at that time, there would be a line running all the way to a fog machine with somebody manipulating it.
Yeah, like obviously you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to
Right, yeah.
have Darth Vader walk around like a Rastafarian shop.
Well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be like, an obvious thing, but like, I mean, if he had like it could have been a subtle effect too, though, just like a subtle drape of fog sort of like slowly rolling out of his suit. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do with the right effects now, because we've had people in the field just playing for the last almost 50 years, which is a really crazy thing to think about. Like they're coming up in that big 5-0.
Well, since you're a brand new guest to the audience, and I mean, kind of to me, like I haven't done a lot of speaking with you. Can you explain how you got into Star Wars, and what is your relationship with the franchise now? Like, just a mini cliff notes of your journey.
Yeah. So, there wasn't really a time in my life where, I mean, I was born in 81. So I was born right in the middle of the original trilogy coming out. And I didn't see Return of the Jedi in the theater. I was only 2 at the time. So my parents were not taking a 2-year-old to a war film, as they saw it at the time. My mom actually didn't let me play with like any kind of toy gun until after the first Gulf War had happened, because they literally wheeled the AV carts into our classrooms to make us watch the war. Yeah, we were watching the news like constantly, because it was the nighttime fighting over there. So it just looked like Star Wars. It was just big green lasers in the night vision of the missiles going back and forth and artillery fire. And
so you would have been like around 10 when it was going down, right?
Yeah, I was actually 9 when the first Gulf War happened, because it was like coming right up in. It was the beginning part of 91 when I really remembered it, because I was in 4th grade in that classroom.
Did you understand the context of why it was happening, or are you just like, oh, they're fighting?
I was fairly cognizant. I was one of those kids that was too mature for his age, and like was into like current events and stuff. And I understood that we were helping like Bush's friends, basically, was what I understood. My parents didn't let me watch it like when I was 2, and then the first real movie that I saw in the theaters was Ghostbusters. I saw it in the drive-in, and then my dad thought it'd be a good idea to take me. And this time I was 3, because it was 84. Took me to see it in the regular theater near the house, and I apparently ran out screaming when the library ghost does the first jump scare. And
like the opening credits hadn't even popped up, and you're just like, I'm done.
Yep, nope, gone. And I was fine at the drive-in the first time, but it's like you're in a car, it's closed in, you're with your parents, it's a different vibe. But when I started being able to watch these kinds of movies and stuff, and they realized, okay, he's not going to run screaming all the time, they would take us over to our godparents' house to watch or to have dinner or whatever, just a regular sort of like people getting together in the 80s. But that meant the kids had to be occupied, right? Well, they had HBO over there, and they had taped the trilogy off of HBO. And that was like a big deal, because VHS was really new, and not everybody had like copies of movies unless they were taping them off of HBO. So every time we went over there, basically we were going to watch Empire or Return of the Jedi. And we went over there about twice a month. So growing up, that's like until I had my own VHS trilogy edition, which I've had all the major releases through the course of VHS existing. I gave up with DVDs because I was really quick to get into digital video. There was there were seas that people used to sail, and they would sail them like they were on merchant vessels in the 1700s, and they would use language like "yar" and "matey," and people would get a hold of their media that way sometimes. And that's what I was doing back then. So I don't even have. I think I have a Revenge of the Sith in the gold box DVD, and that's it. But I have a Disney Plus subscription, so and I have them all. Like I have a flash drive that I used to be part of my everyday carry, and that has the entire original 2 trilogies on it. as sort of a,
Mm.
well, at least I can watch Star Wars right now, kind of plug it into a computer and go.
Okay.
So once, once the drought happened after 83, they gave us the two
Ewok movies.
Ewok movies, which my mom was okay with the first one, but the Battle for Endor,
Where the family dies.
yeah, like she was against that. She didn't really like the first one too because of the the young boy having a blaster rifle.
Oh, that was gonna be like the Gorax. I mean,
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna say the Gorax is scary.
yeah. So I never really, like, I don't know what it was about, like, timing. I just never got a chance to really get too into Droids, the cartoon,
Mm.
or the Ewok
Right.
cartoon. So when the drought kicked in, I just sort of, I was always playing with Star Wars toys. I would still buy them until they were no longer on shelves at the Toys R Us, which was a very sad thing to watch, like shelf space dwindle and dwindle until they just weren't putting any more Star Wars toys out. They just stopped
Mm.
selling them. And that's really when it felt like it was a dead franchise, because
Mm.
we didn't even have by that point, we didn't even have the Thrawn trilogy,
Right.
like we didn't have the books yet. So when those came out, I initially was like, oh, this is going to be it. Like they're going to do these books and then they're going to make these movies. And then it never
Mm.
happened. They never made the movies. And I was just like, I don't know what Lucas is thinking, and then I realized, like, well, he's still doing video games and he's got
Yeah.
novels coming out and he's
It's like
licensing
it's
stuff.
okay. Just wait 13 years, and you'll get a movie.
Yeah, right. So we go through all of this, and then one day I'm in a B. Dalton in Salisbury, and I find this gaming section because the mall was fairly new. It all kind of showed up around the same time, between like 10 and 13 was really like the mall time for me. And B. Dalton had this gaming section with like Dungeons and Dragons books. And they had a game actually called Dragon Quest that I got my parents to buy for me. It was like a starter D&D game. But they had the most important Star Wars book that's ever been made. The Star Wars source book from West End Games. And I don't know if you know about this book, but that's the most important Star Wars book that's ever been written. And the reason is that book was the literal only existing source book of any sort written by anybody for any reason on the background stuff of Star Wars. The day-to-day, here's Arabesh as an alphabet, here's, credits and how they're supposed to function. It's like everything that we think of as like the daily life of Star Wars stuff, for the purposes of like what they've done on shows and showing us things, like, I mean, even stuff like chain code, something like that, has its roots in that source book, because
Right.
it's a mundane thing that needed to be explained. What do people do for X in Star Wars? Like, what do people do when they need this? What are toilets like on a spaceship? And that's how we got those, vac tubes and whatnot, and how they did that. And the only reason it's important is because, being the only book of its type ever made, when Timothy Zahn went to write the Thrawn trilogy, he needed that sort of information. And Lucas gave him beats. Lucas gave him like, here's what I kind of envisioned was going on around this time for these characters, and you can do with that what you will, because I don't really give a shit about a book. That's literally always been his policy towards the EU, which I don't understand why people were surprised when Disney threw the entire extended universe out the window and have just been cherry picking concepts from it. It's like, Lucas never canonized it. He didn't care.
Yeah.
Like he didn't care about it at all. So
he's like, it's canon if it's convenient.
yeah, like if I can use something from it, like absolutely, like, because then I don't really have to pay anybody else.
This man was obsessed with trying to do something with Darth Talon, and never happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like 'cause he literally was like she's the one character I wish I had invented, and it's like that's such edgelord shit, man. Like, but God bless you for saying it out loud. I mean, I still remember. I mean, I had the VHS copies of Return of the Jedi that still had Ula's boob popping out of the side before she falls in the Rancor pit. You know, like a true PG-13 cut. One errant, uh, one errant breast in a moment of tragedy.
Not errant.
Well, it was errant. I mean, yes, if you're wearing if you're wearing a fishing net.
I'm not. I don't disagree with the word choice. I just think it's entertaining. That's the word he went to.
But yeah, so I got my mom to buy me that book, and that turned me on to West End Games, Star Wars role playing game. Became obsessed with it, and I I think I only managed to play in it, like I ran one game one time, and it was after the Power of the Force action figures had come out with all the buff Luke.
Big boys. Yeah, yeah.
dumbest designs, but at least they recycled the old Kenner ships. Like those are all the same ships, just they didn't put the electronics back in them. But if you know what you're doing and you can get a hold of old electronics, you can actually like straight up just rebuild them. Like you can rewire them yourself because they still have the battery compartments. They just don't have any of the prongs and springs. And if you get a noisemaker and you wire it up, the button is still there. You just got to put a spring inside the button and then it's usable. Like it's like I've got an A-Wing and I've got the T-16 Skyhopper, both from the Power of the Force line, but I'm just like waiting around until I feel like taking them apart to put the electronics in them that I can buy online. And by electronics, I really just mean like basic wiring. But I got into the game. Like I said, I only got to run it like one time. Then I met a kid in college. Well, actually, I got to run that game, and that kind of like kept me like just interested enough to like keep wanting to do it. And then all of a sudden, we got the news. We were getting a prequel trilogy, and it was going to come out May of my senior year of high school. And I was like, oh my God, like what a better way to, like, there's no better way to graduate high school than to get a new Star Wars movie as a present. Like we all felt like we were just on the threshold of, it was also the threshold of nerd culture starting to take over. Like we had, like you could see this was different. You had people who used to bully us for liking Star Wars, excited about Star Wars.
They were acting like they were sick, not going to work, and just like we got to see the movie 3 times in one day. That's how the hype was.
Yeah.
And the only things that have been gotten close to that from that time period are maybe Force Awakens, kinda, and maybe like Endgame. Those are the only movies that even get close to that kind of like, oh my gosh, we have to see this, and people are like just running in droves.
Like Deathly Hallows, I think, also had that. Like the Harry Potter stuff definitely blew up at the very end. They
part 2 definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Some people, I know some people are like, I'll skip part 1. I just want to be there for the last one.
But yeah, so when those were brewing still, I managed to, through an email listserv that I was a part of, like an email newsletter, was able to run a table of actually, it's kind of so funny we're talking about aliens. I was able to run a table of a GURPS game. GURPS is it stands for Generic Universal Role Playing System. Right. It's you can kind of do anything with it. It lends itself to multi verses and everything. So I was running, it was a Jurassic Park style game, literally based on Jurassic Park. These people needed to go in. There was a lot more like some of the later ones, like they needed to go in there and figure out what was going on this island. Like it was supposed to just be an abandoned park facility. Okay. And when they get there, a xenomorph ship had crash landed. So there were xenoraptors and the big T-Rex queen and whatnot. And so I ran this like one game session, and I had just used that for the DM benefits, which were free access to all 3 days of the convention and like free sign up and stuff like that for the games. So I signed up for a one-off of a Star Wars live action role playing game scenario that somebody was running, where we were in a lifeboat escape pod that had been jettisoned off of like a luxury liner, and it was a murder mystery. And I was playing a smuggler, and I managed to convince the DM before we started to let me be the only person who would have a holdout blaster on them. Because I was like, there's no way I'm going into anything Star Wars without a gun. You're not letting me, no, not playing it, and I got to have a gun. I had to have something concealed because somebody here is going to try to do something. And it's funny because I actually used to practice quick draw, mostly for cosplay. So like nobody expected that I would literally be able to just like produce a pistol in this environment. And then after the game session was over, he was like, hey, I'm going back over to the weekend long Star Wars LARP that's in its 3rd year. Would you like to come play with us? And I was like, absolutely. And that got me into their group for the next year. I think they merged with another company called Double Exposure, who was like putting on these conventions up. It's up in like Red Bank area of New Jersey, like Monmouth County mostly. But yeah. But between the first time I went and the next time I went, episode 1 came out. And so it was really funny seeing everybody having like better lightsabers the next time, because everyone had finally gotten a hold of good collapsible like Qui-Gon's and Obi-Wan sabers. And some of these kids were like chemical engineers, So one kid had taken like either a Vader or an Anakin Luke saber and had chemically dyed it violet before we had a violet saber, except for, of course, Mara Jade, obviously. But we had never seen one in anything. And then this kid already had one, And it's funny, too, because it's just those flashlight snap-out sabers. But it's all we had before, except for really expensive machined aluminum hilts that this guy would sell up there. He had a whole booth and he would make these things. He would make acrylic, like shatterproof tubes in all different colors. And then they were threaded and you would screw them in and they were like fight ready. They didn't have any, I think some of them might've had some very basic lights in the bottom to illuminate the shaft, but like there was no sounds or anything. And it's just so funny because nowadays, we've got full on complete lighting effect sabers that when Obi-Wan Ewan McGregor was talking about that, and one of the behind the scene things for Kenobi
TV show,
and he was just like, it's crazy, like we had metal sticks that would break every time we shot a scene, and now we've got things that actually provide illumination and can withstand everything. I would have loved to have been in there to watch the filming of their duel in Kenobi, him versus Vader, when he finally when he got up and just threw all those rocks like a beast. I loved seeing Obi-Wan really leveling up there, like realizing not only was he still as powerful as he had been in the Force before, but he had greater access to it for one very important reason, the same reason the dark side had gotten so goddamn powerful. If there's only like 5 guys using the Force, that's a lot of energy to be able to tap into. So when Palpatine was literally saying, I am all the Sith, he was the only Sith left at that moment. Like all of those people in the crowd were just adherents. They weren't Sith Lords. They weren't Force users.
This might be controversial, but I don't really like the idea that, Force for whatever side is just divisible amongst, people. Like, if there's less users, then they're more powerful. Like, I'm not really a big fan of that.
Well, concept. I think it's mostly a dark side thing. Like, I think it mostly ties into, and that's the reason for the real reason for the rule of 2 is because if there's only 2 Sith people, the Sith don't like other Force user traditions. They don't like the witches of Dathomir. They don't like any of that nonsense because they come from this, you know, dual tradition with the Jedi, you know, and they don't like other people messing up the soup.
I like the idea more that the Sith think that way, but it's not actually true.
I mean, yeah, it could very much be that way, you know, but that's at least like the going like mentality behind the Sith, you know, is that like, well, if no one else is using the Force, like that means it's all for us. But of course, it's like, well, what about? I mean, there's just places that just are dark side of the Force, you know, like that little temple on Dagobah where Luke fights his mirror image Vader self thing, you know, like they're just, or the pit on the water world where Luke was, you know, where Rey sees the mirror image. And I mean, I loved a lot of that part of The Last Jedi where they were really trying to hammer home this idea that she wasn't anybody. And I understand how they're recontextualizing that now as just Kylo Ren being an abusive pseudo boyfriend with a parasocial relationship with her. I mean, they basically met on Force Twitter, you know, like that's how they were having conversations. And duels even. I mean, that was the weirdest part of the Rise of Skywalker was all of the, like, because of their dyad thing, like they were basically always within space of each other. Like she could hand him the Anakin saber. Like, okay.
Like, think about this. 1 year, Kylo Ren throws Rey into a tree. The next year, they're kissing.
Yeah, dude, you know, it is, and this whole like rise or the hunt for Ben Solo thing, I am so keen on because I just love fan pandemonium. And I mean, like, what was it, like 100 Reys were outside the museum in Los Angeles, like protesting, like with signs that said, "Where is Ben Solo?" Like, I love unhinged fan behavior like that when it's not like
toxic.
Exactly. When it's this kind of like, when it's, I like, well, non-toxic creator bullying is my favorite kind of fandom because you started this and they liked it so fucking much that they are not going to give up on loving it. And they are going to be insistent that you provide them with more love. I think that is the creator trap, you know, because if you get too good, they're just going to want more from you. But at the same time, it's like, it's such an inconsequential thing long term if we never get a Ben Solo movie, even if it's a great pitch, even if Steven Soderbergh, who's an amazing script guy, like, I mean, if he's got a good script, God, can we really say no to a Steven Soderbergh Star Wars movie? You know, like, we never got our Quentin Tarantino Star Trek film, and we're never going to now.
Right.
And I would have, honestly, with the new Star Trek film coming out, not having anything to do with any pre-existing characters, like, that's the breath of fresh air that we need over here too. And I thought Mandalorian was going to be a little bit more of that, but then they were just, Filoni just was like, "Now you forgot what I do. It's fan service, fan service, fan service, fan service."
To me, there's not an issue with fan service if it's actually serving a narrative purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, he does it the right way. Like, he gives you the thing you wanted to see that you didn't even remember that you wanted to see, you know, like something very simple and small. But he's also a rule breaker, which is interesting. Like, he's broken a lot of George Lucas's hard Star Wars design rules. He introduced eyeglasses.
Yeah.
Like, that was a huge thing. Nobody in the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy was allowed to wear glasses because he said you would just get your eyes fixed. Like, it's an outpatient procedure in that setting. Lasers are everywhere. It would just be a thing you got when you were a kid, unless you were like on a super poor planet or something, you know, like if you were like on Soren or wherever, where they were doing the krill farming to make spatchka. Yeah, they might wear glasses on a planet like that. But someone like Pershing, Lucas never would have let those glasses through. He would have been like, "You're either going to be blurry or you're going to be in contacts, my guy." And let me tell you about the Sith contacts those guys have to wear.
Would you say, like, you talked about the totality of like I mean the basic cliff notes that of your journey. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I love how I said brief cliff notes, and you're
yeah, it
just
was
like
nothing but
no brief.
yeah. I mean, the by the time episode 3 came out, I had missed it in the theater. I managed to get a friend who got a hold of a somewhere theater version and sent it to me. It might have been a screener actually. It was a really good quality file. But I remember my girlfriend at the time was part of the reason I hadn't gone. She and I quote didn't like movies with lasers and shit. Yeah, we somehow dated for 3 years, my dude. Like, I don't know how. I have no real reason other than I was just like happy to be with somebody who was in a stable relationship with me for once. But like, I remember I was sitting drinking Dr. Pepper and doing shots of Jack Daniels and just being like, this battle sequence is insane. It just, and then by the end of it, like just being in tears because Hayden just sent it home as Anakin at the end, like, and Ewan McGregor is Ewan McGregor. He's one of the greatest actors of his generation. I mean, that's the real coup of the prequels was the talent they actually were able to get. I mean, Natalie Portman, like that, and being the vehicle that launched her into her career, like, man. But there was that still. I had to play the game with a lot of my friends that were into Star Wars at about the same level as me, or at least I thought, where they were just anti-sequel people because they missed the whole, like, this is like being mad the G.I. Joe movie was simple. Like it's a movie about a toy, these are stories for kids. If you're expecting Shakespeare, we're not there yet with it. We have to get 2 or 3 generations deep into a franchise like that before we're going to be able to explore deep concepts within it that are like mostly adult,
I mean, you got Andor, but I'm like, if you're looking for those deep concepts, and like a great place to look is the novels.
Yes, no, the novels were great for that. And that's one of the things that does suck about like losing the canon of a couple of things like Truce of Baccarat, because of the situations and character development that they forced onto people like Han Solo. They literally betrothed Leia off to somebody else, like as a, and he's just like the fuck in there. And it was so funny because it's sort of a Spaceballs reference. It's kind of like, well, you're not a space prince, my guy. And this guy is, and she's still technically royalty, and we need to utilize that to free up some of these worlds that were never, Rebel Alliance, but never really supported the Empire other than tithings. We need those planets back. And we got really interesting things. I was thinking about this the other day, like light foils. That came from novels. Like Luke went to a planet where there were these nobles, like kind of like somewhere between like in their early like late teens, early 20s sort of guys, and they would duel with light foils, but they had no force use or anything. So it was just a matter of skill, which made them a lot more dangerous because you weren't able to like kind of sync up with them through the force the way that a force fight kind of goes, where you're sort of like, yeah, you're fighting and you're in there in the moment, but like if you were to take a step back and be able to see their force energy, the way it's like, intertwining and intermeshing and fighting against itself, But these guys are just like, nope, just really, really good wrist control, my guy. Every force user has to kind of have that moment where they're either on the edge or they are falling over the edge, if they're going to understand the dark side enough to find the balance that a Jedi is supposed to actually have. Why there are no gray Jedi. They're already gray. They're balanced. And the Sith are unbalanced.
I don't like, the expression or concept of gray Jedi because it seems like a contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't sort of do evil, like, and that's why things like Vapad form, you know, the form that Maul uses against Palpatine in that duel is so effective because he's not using the dark side of the Force, but he becomes a mirror of the dark side of the Force. He literally just pushes it right back at him. And that's why all of Palpatine's moves are just countered so quickly, unlike all the rest of the Jedi in that room who just got mowed down by that guy, which didn't make a lot of sense to me because some of the people in that room were top tier like people.
Yeah. Instead of saying "Great Jedi," maybe we should combine the words. We should start saying "GIF." Because to me, a great Jedi
Wait,
seems
is it
like
GIF or is it GIF?
no, GIF with a TH, not a F. But to me, like saying "great Jedi" is kind of like saying, "Oh, like this is like a very sinful nun." I'm just like, okay, well, at a certain point, you stop being a nun.
Yeah, right.
So my Cliff Notes journey is that I wasn't alive for the original trilogy when it came out, and I was too young to see Phantom Menace, but it came out in theaters. But the first movie I saw, one of the first movies I ever saw in the theaters, was Attack of the Clones, and I had
Nice.
already watched the original trilogy on the special edition re-releases for
Oh
VHS.
yeah. When the first time Lucas stuck his thumb back in the pie.
I was there for like the really ugly CGI Java effect. That was what I grew up with when I was a small child.
That
Uh,
was a hard thing to be able to say. Like I had to try to defend my position of still being able to like everything, and then people like and like the prequels, and then but I had to play that game though with the toxic friends of like, yeah, no, I hate the prequels. They're dumb. Like,
yeah.
because I didn't want to have a conversation with them where I had to just spend the whole time defending against their opinion about
Oh
something
yeah.
that it's
Like some of those friends are not like truly toxic. Like they just like are unmovable in like their opinion. Like they won't even give an inch to like an idea. They're just like, nah, man, nah. Like they're not going out to like be hateful to anybody. They're just like they don't want to hear it.
yeah, they just have they
I,
already have their opinion formed basically anyway. Like they have their rigid mindsets are I've just never really understood because I have a degree in philosophy. I've always had a very, I don't want to say a flexible mind, but I think that is a good word for it. Like, because, I like to maintain a plasticity, which is, I think, the proper term. I don't like to become too rigid in my thinking in any real way, because if I were to look back at what I thought about the universe at 17 compared to what I think about the universe now, it's vastly different. And if I was still adhering to those rules, man, I'd have to go to church tomorrow, dude. Like my entire life would be different. Like I said, I was too into current events. And when you grow up and everything is peaceful where you live, and then all of a sudden they're wheeling a war into your fourth grade classroom every day, like things can start to feel pretty apocalyptic pretty quickly. I think that's one of the reasons why 24-hour news after 9/11 was a terrible idea. We didn't need all that extra information. It wasn't going to do us any good. We needed the people who were doing the jobs to have all the information. And then after the fact, once everything has died down, they can say, here's what happened and here's how we responded. If it is things that don't require our direct consent, we have Congress for that.
I mean, that constant reminder of like what happened on 9/11 did help us usher into the Iraq War. It did
because
help.
never forget. Don't you fucking
Yeah,
forget.
it helped George Bush win in 2004 the election. Like,
Oh,
so like
absolutely.
it was a benefit to the machine, definitely, but to the regular people, no. I mean, some
Fear
people
always
like
benefits the machine.
yeah, and like it definitely wasn't helpful for like some people, like because they're just like, oh, like my kid died in a war that it just made someone else richer for oil. Like it's really messed up.
Or for for Gorman Tweed or Twill rather, because if you look at the parallel here of Andor, look at the news coverage.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's someone on Gore reporting or Gorman every day every single day reporting on the news there. And that's going out galaxy wide to every Imperial whatever they are.
They're artificially manufacturing consent for what they're going to be doing that's actively like horrible.
Yep, and they do that all the time in the real world. Yeah, it's just such a weird. It's just such a weird. That's part of the reason why, like, I fell back into Star Wars when the Mandalorian came out, and we started getting all this great stuff, and then we finally got. I mean, we had already had like the sequel trilogy starting, and it was just like the momentum for the franchise had picked back up, and it's like for the first time I didn't feel like annoyed to like Star Wars because it was like there were enough of us to drown out the toxicity of the regular toxic fans that had just felt very comfortable being the loudest frogs in the pond. They had dominated the EU landscape for so long by being arbiters of like what was cool and what wasn't cool, because you couldn't really say something was or wasn't canon if it was an EU product. It was just straight up not canon, so people were very gatekeepy about that concept too. And I was just always like, man, Star Wars is Star Wars. It's whatever fits.
But back in the day, the comic shops were like the Eltingville comic / cartoon, like where it was seniority of like how much you knew about trivia. And like they just like that's how you got respect. It's not having people skills or like being nice to each other.
Well, that's the thing, is because it was like, as saying this as somebody who is on the spectrum, it was how autistic can you get with it?
I got some tism too. I was diagnosed a few years back.
And that's a weird thing to find out as an adult, is to be like 41 years old to find out not only are you on the spectrum, but you got ADHD too. And so they're like, here's some Adderall. Yep. Enjoy focusing for the first time in your entire life on anything that you actually don't care about. You can actually focus on it now.
My entry point was watching the original trilogy on VHS, and then watching,
and then seeing the clones.
Prequel trilogy. I was tapped in a little bit off and on to the Clone Wars. It wasn't until like my late teens I actually decided I was going to find a way to watch all of it because they put it all on Netflix.
Yeah, that's about when I did too. I just, again, it was like, do I need to get the Disney Channel? Well, I don't want the Disney Channel. That means I got to get cable again, and do I want to sail the seas every week? Because that's a tedious process. It's no good for me there. So I essentially had an unofficial Star Wars media embargo just because I didn't have a good means to get to it, or really the financial means to tap into it. So like I said, I didn't have a cable bill other than an internet bill. And back then that was super affordable. I mean, gosh, the early 2000s, man, the way that we almost didn't have to pay for internet was just insane. Between having access to AOL or whatever it was. I mean, as long as you could get a cable into a wall, you could get online.
Yeah. You want to hit us with these kids these days don't understand?
Well, the thing these kids don't understand is that we didn't have no fancy relief tubes when our Mithril was starting to release his gill spores. So we just had to harvest them right then and there, and he didn't like that one bit.
Well, I can tell you the character that I've had a huge journey with is this one right here.
Yeah, he's been such a weird part of it, and it's like, I love the Darth Jar Jar stuff. I love that idea, like that. God, wouldn't have been hilarious if he was Pelagius this whole time.
When I was a kid, I absolutely adored him. He was
he was a kid.
I mean, he was meant for me, and like I felt like I had to be ashamed of liking him because everyone around me was just like, he sucks. And then I started getting in mode of like, oh, I think he sucks, because I think there was one time I watched Phantom Menace when I had like slept in like 24 hours, and like anything that was like slightly annoying, I had no time for. I had no time for. And then I started like thinking of like, okay, let me think of this movie in his perspective, and how do I feel if I'm trying to judge it based on that? And I was like, okay, I don't think he's that bad, and I don't think
he did the best he could.
Yeah, I don't think Jar Jar is actually silly. I just think he's a klutz.
See, and that's the thing. That's something that I've always had an issue with because I am incredibly well balanced. But if I have any sort of nerves, boy, I can be klutzy. Just maybe a month or two ago, I was doing an improv show because I do improv at the Baltimore Improv Theater. That's the Baltimore Improv Group's theater, I should say, on 1727 North Charles. I was doing a show a couple months ago, and I finished setting up this easel that we used for our show. And as I was stepping down off the risers, I didn't hit the first riser. I went straight off the second riser to the floor. But in that, there was a lot of inertia with me. So I went from the risers to on my hands and knees. And I felt, got that sting in both of my wrists from hitting. And we didn't play it for laughs. We played it as it was an intentional thing. Instead of making it like, oh, laugh at this guy, it was no like, oh, laugh at what I just did, But when they do that to somebody else, third hand in a movie like that, where they say, oh, we're going to not only make him not very dexterous, but it's going to physically harm him in ways that would kill a human. Right. Like getting his head between the energy connector of the pod. Like, holy my guy, like your tongue went numb. But then, then of course in episode 2, they fly through a fucking energy field and just get a little
the power couplings.
Yeah, it's like, how many times have I told you, don't fly through them? It's like, you should only have to not say it once, because if you have to say it a second time, you're talking to nobody from the wrong side of the grid. Like you have passed on.
I'm sorry, Master.
Sorry, Master. I'm sorry. We weren't supposed to end up in the world between worlds for like 20 more years, my guy.
But I've had a huge development with this character. Not that long ago, I was working on a fanfic Jar Jar novel, like going through his entire life, and I started writing him. I was like, wow, Jar Jar's really depressed.
Right? He's depressed, and that also can lead somebody to being clumsy because you're not paying as much attention to what you're doing because you're stuck in your thoughts. Being exiled from your people because you accidentally caused a possible loss of life incident, which is what it made it sound like. Like, yeah, you might be depressed and clumsy.
A character that almost nobody cares about, but I do, is Captain Rue Tarfles. He's the Gungan.
Oh, he's the Gungan captain, yeah, with the mustache.
Yeah, I'm convinced that Rue Tarfles is. So if we're comparing characters, Jar Jar is Luke, and Rue Tarfles is his Obi-Wan.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at how the Gungans generally behave, he is not weird or silly in comparison. Look at their big boss, played by Brian Blessed. The
Boss Nass.
Yeah, Boss Nass, exactly. Brian Blessed just kind of invented that thing as just something for the guy to do, and Lucas was like, yeah, sure, animate that. And then that just became the character because for their culture, that's seriousness. And that's one of the things that people miss about Star Wars is cultural perspectives matter. Everyone's cultural perspective isn't the same. And it's funny how the Acolyte plays on that, because they play on that with the Force use. They're like, this is a cultural issue the Jedi don't really do very well. The Jedi are intolerant of other traditions, not just dark side users. Right. Because this other tradition, these women, they were witches of whatever sort. They weren't witches of Dathomir, but they were self-proclaiming that status as witches.
Yeah, I compared the Jedi coming to see the witches in Acolyte to how the Portuguese came to Japan. They're just like, oh, you want Catholicism? This is how we do it. We think the way that you are wearing basically nothing and do all these different customs. We think that's backwards and isn't chaste.
Yeah, like it's exactly the same thing. And I think that was that show had so much potential, and I don't think it was mishandled. I think it was misinterpreted by the toxicity that was expecting something else, and I don't know what else they were expecting. Like, and yeah, it's okay to have a shirtless, queer-coded Jedi. Like, the Jedi aren't supposed to have attachment in the first place, so what does it matter? You know, if they thirst trap it a little bit, like, and then they gave us the stranger with his shirt off doing badass stuff, and I mean, he was, and then he's supposed to become Ren. Like, that's dope. That's big dope.
Like I thought the show was all right, but it is my least favorite of the Disney Plus live action shows.
Oh, for absolute no, definitely. I think that there were things they could have done better.
But some of my biggest issues were a lot of the decisions from the characters. I can't make the leap in the logic that they do, and like I don't. A lot of times, their decisions don't feel real to me.
I was not a big fan of that one kid that had been the Padawan, the one who had to take the poison himself. You know?
Oh yeah.
because it did, his makeup, his beard did not look believable at all, and I was like, "Yo, this guy did not grow that beard. They glued that beard on this kid's face."
I said that, like, when they were doing like who did it or early in the seasons, I said that he's the one that did it because I said that he was wrought with so much guilt that in 10 years it destroyed his hairline. Another thing I was going to say is that, like, I've been in the trenches of defending Star Wars that I really do love, because my favorite Star Wars anything is Last Jedi, and that's something
that's very nice to hear.
Defend.
Yeah, I love that one.
And I've definitely been in the trenches on Instagram defending Rose.
Man, see, and that brings us back to your Jar Jar thing, though. That, to me, when people were starting to take issue with the performance, I have a lot of acting background. I've done a lot of Shakespeare. I've done a lot of shows. I do improv every week. I was never one of these people who forgot that there's an actor underneath there doing all of that. And Ahmed Best, the abuse that he took, like, and I mean,
he contemplated suicide.
Yeah. And then for them to not only bring him back for that trivia show, but then to give him the greatest fucking Jedi role that you could have gotten on the Mandalorian, besides Luke's stand-in. Yeah. Right. To save Grogu from and not just Grogu, but like to be a straight up, like, yeah, no, Bellerin Rock is out there somewhere, you know, because if you saved Grogu, you didn't need the path out, you know, like the whatever the way was called, you know, from Obi-Wan. Like, you didn't need to use that route, which is, I still need to go back and watch the Visions of the Empire stuff, because I'm a big Quinlan Vos fan, and I haven't watched it yet, and I know that it's all about, you know, Ventress and them, and I need to sit down and finally, like, dig into it, because, like, I decided the other week to just watch all of True Detective again, season 1, you know, but it's just so fucking funny how the universe, you know, art mirrors life and life mirrors art in that way, you know, and we see it all the time with Star Wars, you know. Look at our political situation, and it's so funny because Gilroy on the weekly show podcast with Jon Stewart, he was on there with the guy that hosts the Revolution podcast, and they were talking about, you know, how in the study of revolutions, Gilroy was not framing the Andor Empire Revolution show to be left or right, and then it naturally, organically framed itself that way because of the parallel. We literally all of a sudden were watching the same kind of power moves that the Empire was making happening in our country,
right?
And how we were positioning ourselves towards the rest of the world. And it's like, it's so funny. Like, you know, he's come out since and been like, yeah, I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm glad the message ended up being there. You know, like, this is how to do a revolution.
I think it's more that like he like I watched like a very good YouTube video about like all the historical parallels like the Andor series is making, and even how it connects to movies about different revolutions, especially ones pertaining to the Russian Revolution of 1905 and then 1918, and just having that, you realize sometimes history is kind of a hamster wheel. Things just kind of happen over and over again.
Some weird like neural interface, you know, where we've, you know, it'll be like a VR helmet but it doesn't have a, you know, it works kind of like the Mind Flayer, you know, it just projects stuff in. Like, it doesn't, like, I mean, the Mind Flayer from Star Wars, not the one from Stranger Things. You know, we just put the helmet on, and then we get to like kind of be in the emotional space of the film in a way that we weren't before, you know, like it'll be sort of a sense of beyond 3D, you know what I mean? Like, cause it's going to be like, they're going to have to add new sensory layers to films. Like, I mean, they're already trying to add scents, like smells to movies. Right. And I mean, there's aromatherapy devices you can get right now for your D&D game, where it's like, it's loaded with cartridges, and then you have different buttons for like dragon's flame. So it's got like the sulfury, brimstony smell. And you know, you've got like forest, it got a big mossy hits and, you know, like myrcene terpenes in it and shit. Like, it's crazy, but that's the next, people really want that. And I'm just thinking, I still have problems thinking about Luke having ingested trash water in the trash compactor. And they want to add a smell to that scene. Fuck off.
Yeah.
But you're going to pay all this money, and then you're going to look at your ticket and be like, 5D? Oh, fuck. And it'll be in full 3D. It'll have immersive haptic feedback seating, like some, like Six Flags over America.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Yeah, that jet pilot thing. I remember that as clear as anything. I mean, those seats went all the way back. Like, you were taken off at 90 degrees in a jet fighter. And that's going to be the next thing. It's going to be the full haptic feedback, so you're feeling like you're there. And then all of a sudden, from small little jets at your seat, you're going to smell the BO of an entire Marine platoon. I guarantee you they're going to release it, even though people are getting sick, and they're going to say like, that's just it's proof it's so authentic. Like, that's proof it's real. So if they're going to add smells to the movies, we need to make sure that both Dave Filoni and Lucas have died, because I mean, probably Kathleen Kennedy too, because those are the people with like the source code level notes of like what Lucas would know these things smell like. And I'm sorry, I don't need that in my, it's like my wife doesn't like to watch movies with gore in them. Well, my soon to be ex-wife, she doesn't like watching movies with gore in them because she doesn't like those images in her head. I don't want to, there's smells I've smelled I don't need in my head, man. I know what dead raccoon smells like, man. Like summer heat under a foundation of a house. But she was showing me this, and she's like, I've never been underneath of it. And it was like a platform on like real low to the ground. That was the remnants of the foundation of this thing. It was Wicked Witch of the East deep in this thing. Like, ankles only are sticking out. And she stops responding to anything, even smacking stimulus. Poe Dameron.
Okay, Ben, let me just say, this is one of the craziest like tangents I've ever had on my channel. It's just you talking about smells, and
because I'm terrified of them smelling up Star Wars. That's what it is. It's that's the next special edition that I am terrified of.
I was like, maybe if I pull out Poe, like he'll like snap back into talking about Star Wars, because I don't want to leave you on too long. So what I was gonna say about Rose is that I really do enjoy the character. Poe is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, period. And there was a lot of aspects of the Rise of Skywalker that I was not a fan of. I thought like it, like to me, like you ever seen the
Should have been
meme where it
two films.
has, you know, like the meme, or that would be like we have a 4 hour cut, but you know the meme of like the serious looking dragon, and the goofy looking one.
Yeah, you have the three
That,
dragon
that-
heads.
yeah, that's how I felt about the sequel trilogy. And like, there's a lot
Yeah,
I do enjoy about that movie, but there was like so many like retcons I was not a fan of. Ray
I'm
being
not a J.J.
Palpatine.
Abrams fan. I've never been a J.J. Abrams fan. I did not watch Lost because from the get-go, I knew that he was never going to be able to deliver on the mystery because it was overhyped.
Right.
So whatever you were coming up with in your head, that theory was always going to sound better to you than whatever he was able to deliver. It's the way those kind of mystery boxes work. That's why you never find out what Marcellus Wallace had in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
What he's best at in his toolbox is starting a new thing that's already existed.
Yeah, I mean, his biggest character fault is that he wants to be more Spielberg than Spielberg. You know, he wants to be like the distilled next version of a pre-existing thing because that's what he
Right.
does.
Yeah.
You know, he's been aping Spielberg and Lucas his whole career in one
Right.
way or another. And I mean, not for bad reasons. I had the same instinct as a kid. I saw Jurassic Park and I said, that's what I want to do. My mom was like, you want to be a T-Rex? I said, I'm 12. I don't want to be a T-Rex anymore. I said, I want to be a director. I want to make this. Like, because I was scared of the movie because of my friends telling me it was so violent. Like, it's like this T-Rex just like eats this lawyer in this one scene and like they kill all these people. And I was like, I'd not been exposed to violence because my mom want to make Spielberg style movies, you know, because like Hook was another one, you know, linking back through because anything that had a John Williams score was a big part of my childhood and formative. I mean, the Richard Donner Superman movies, you know, like
wait. So were you allowed to watch any Indiana Jones, or was that too violent?
No. See, this is where my mom was good. I was always allowed to watch something where the message was always punch Nazis. The reason I brought up my godparents about it was because I didn't know until my godfather passed a couple of years ago that he, not my godmother, had been the one to record those movies because he was such a big Star Wars fan. So much so that he had a stroke in March of the year that he died. And then he was alive for like 6 more months. No, it was July to March. That's what it was. It was July one year, and then he was alive until March. And during that time, they got the full subscription, the highest tier of Disney Plus, and did nothing for 6 months but watch Star Wars. And I found that out at his funeral from, you know, my godmother, and it made everything make a lot of sense for me because my parents and I have kind of a interesting relationship. I've become emotionally distanced from them in the last 5-6 years or so, but I think there's always been an emotional gulf there, and it's finding where my parents fit in that, you know, and then finding out how big a fan my godfather was, that he spent the last 6 months of his life just watching The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and everything. And that's the reason why my Mandalorian character his name is Guide Weyoun, Guide Robet Weyoun, and his call sign is Fletcher. That's what he goes by. Wayne Fletcher was my godfather's name. So in his call sign, I honor my godfather by his last name. And then in his Mandalorian actual family name, it's the last name Weyoun. It's just a Star Wars way of spelling Wayne. So that's my glup shitto.
That's honestly beautiful.
Because if it wasn't for Wayne, I wouldn't have gotten Star Wars right at the most important time to become a lifelong, I would say, devotee at this point. I mean, you factor in how much it cost me, and probably including my marriage, and not just the material cost of putting that armor together and everything that I've gone through doing it. You know, like, it's the only thing that you can equate that with is, you know, people that do things for religious reasons. You know, Star Wars is an intrinsic part of my heuristic framework of what makes me me. And the philosophical underpinnings, the political underpinnings, all of it, it has shaped me into the person that I am. But as far as our life process goes, we are the intelligence of the universe trying to understand itself. And Star Wars, for me, is just another way of doing that. It's just another lens, you know, like those glasses from National Treasure that had all different colored lenses that let them look at the Declaration. It's kind of like that. It's just another set of lenses to flip into place when you need to see the universe in a different way. And I can't imagine who I would be without Star Wars, because I don't know myself without Star Wars. It's always been there. And that's what's beautiful for me about it. Like, it's never been, I was so young that it got to get the mythic status it deserved before it deserved it. You know, like it had that sense of like I don't remember watching it before the episode numbers were put on. Right. So like, it's always had a sense of, this is older than I understand. You know, and I would ask mom questions when I didn't know things about trivia. Like, why is this happening? And she'd just be like, I don't fucking know. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't have any frame of reference for this. Which is why when that source book was around, holy shit, talk about answering questions. And you can still get it too. It is still, it's not like available for print or anything, but you can go to like thrift books and places like that and still find copies of it. And
it might be on Internet Archive.
Yeah, I know that there are PDFs of it out there too. You know, it's not like it's in print, so you're not hurting anybody's income by sailing the seas to find it.
Right.
And there is a big revival. With the old school gaming revival that happened in the last like 10, 20 years, there are people who have started playing that edition again. But basically, there's an underground version of an updated version of the West End Games rules put out by people who used to work for the company before it went, you know, belly up. But they can't like release it legally because of Star Wars licensing right now is about the weirdest thing in the world because it's through Disney. And so and Lucasfilm has so many tendrils out there of people who have had licensing, which is why, like 1313 just disintegrated. 1313 blaster with me. So this is the
wow.
That was supposed to be Boba Fett's gun. And the funny thing about it is a lot of the supposed features it was going to be configurable and whatnot and expandable. They ended up using in conceptually for Kay Voss's configurable blaster for Outlaws, which is that's one of the best Star Wars games ever made. And it definitely needed a couple of patches at start because they needed to really nerf the stormtroopers' ability to sniff you out during stealth. But once they balanced everything, I mean, that game was just, you could just go sit in a parlor and play Sabacc as long as you wanted, as long as you had money. Like no other game ever let you do that in Star Wars. There was no open world game for Star Wars. This era has a very, the OG trilogy and Mando verse sort of small temporal continuity, everything that is happening in that small sequence of 10 years or so has a real 70s, 80s vibe to it, whereas like the prequel trilogy, big 1920s, 1930s energy, and then into the 40s when you get into the Clone Wars, because they're emulating the World War II and everything.
Right.
And the Art Deco in every design thing on Coruscant. I mean, just really selling that Art Deco design. And I think that's why the sequel trilogy didn't really have any cohesion, because they didn't change enough. Like, yes, we got new stormtrooper looks, we got stuff like that. But when it came to like the minutia, the day-to-day stuff, it all just felt Star Wars, but not like, oh, we're 30 years later, they've invented some new technology. It was this like, I mean, I get that there's a stagnation in development in theory from the war, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, they developed some pretty crazy technology in short spans of time in Star Wars, and then lose them generally. But
there's only one place in the sequel trilogy that I would argue feels like it's really pulling from something as far as like artistic, and that is Canto Bight.
Yes. Canto Bight felt, for the first time, it was like, oh, we have like, what's like, we got Space Italy in Naboo. But here's like Space Monaco. This is like the money
right.
of Star Wars, which was, again, another great part of Outlaws, was that it starts in Canto Bight. Like that's where you're from.
You get to see a lot more of like all the sides of it when you play Outlaws, Canto Bight.
Yeah.
And you could really see, like, obviously they're taking it from a 3D model that they built for Last Jedi, and they're just like making it, more intricate with like individual rooms, and you see like how much of it is like that 1920s gangster film aesthetic.
Yeah. Very much so, yeah. Could you and that whole feel of like, yeah, it's polished, but like just under the surface, not 2400 levels down, not 1313 levels down, like right here, you go to the wrong nightclub. Oh, this is where the pirates are.
Yeah. But one of the reasons I was bringing back to some of my disappointments with Rise of Skywalker is because instead of just raging online, I decided to be creative with it, and I wrote a 132-page fan script rewrite of Episode 9, where Kylo / Ben lives in my script. Rose gets to do things.
Well, I feel like they just cut a bunch of her out of that movie in general.
And Ahsoka isn't. Well, Leia is not alive in my script, but I find a way to give her a tribute that I think is respectful. Because I wrote it like as if I was given the same assignment as J.J. Abrams and team.
Right.
So whatever limitations they had, I'm like, okay, I'll work with those same limitations. And then main thing was Carrie Fisher's no longer with us.
Right.
And
you don't have a bunch of spare footage to use from Episode 7.
Right. But yeah, I went to a completely different direction. Like one thing I like to say that usually gets people like, ooh, that sounds pretty cool, is that the final battle between Rey and Kylo in my script, they are fighting on Naboo, and they run and walk on the water while fighting with the lightsabers.
I like that. I like that a lot. It would have been a lot better than them fighting on the North Atlantic ruins of the Death Star.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think that section is that bad. Like, I like the idea that the fighting on it.
I didn't like. Yeah, my issue with that part was really just that dagger, because I was like, dude, you just wanted to do the Goonies, man. That's all you wanted to do. That you turned a dagger into a doubloon, and it's now she's holding it up to something that is just like really. There's scores in a dagger that look exactly like,
and some wreckage.
Yeah, these wreckage that's never gonna shift at all. Like, it's never gonna move at all. I mean, I get there's a lot of wreckage there. There is sort of a gravity issue, hence the waves. but like,
But this is just some random wreckage that's been there for 31 years.
yeah.
You mentioned that you used to like watch a little bit of the Ewok movies. Mace Tawani is in my script.
See, that's proper fan service. Like when they brought back in this is one of the best things, Book of Boba Fett. The two people in that bar when Boba Fett goes in and beats all the swoop gang up in that moisture bar.
Yeah. The deleted
those
scene.
are Luke's friends.
Yeah.
From the deleted scenes of episode 4.
Right.
Like the deleted scene where before Big leaves to go to Yavin, like he comes and says goodbye to Luke. And it's like, oh, look at all that context that has no reason to have been cut, except I do know why Maria Lucas cut a lot of stuff, because she was trying to fix George's nightmare film. Because he didn't have a plan that was any good. That's the problem with the first movie. He wanted to do a bunch of things and he didn't have a great plot. He had a plot, but he had rewritten it so many times that it was just a shadow of what it once was. And she saved it in the edit. And she never gets enough credit for that. Even in the Lights and Industrial Lights and Magic documentary on Disney Plus, she does not get credit for the edit. And like she's credited as being one of the editors, but it's like, dude, she's the one that like started doing all the dissolves and the wipes and everything that were interesting. Like that's why they did them, because she showed them that it was a good technique to move the action along for this kind of a film.
There's only one person that I think deserves more credit that does not get it, and that is Leigh Brackett.
Leigh Brackett. I can't remember who that is.
Okay, so the only official credit that Leigh Brackett has associated with Star Wars is that she was one of the co-writers of Empire Strikes Back.
That's right.
Now
she wrote it with Kasdan, right?
Yeah. She died from cancer shortly before that movie came out. So they're like, okay, we have to make sure we have to put her name up there. She was known as being a ghostwriter for movies back in the day, and she was also a prolific sci-fi writer along with her husband. And a lot of the ideas that she has in her books and in her magazines show up in Star Wars in the first movie. And George is talking about like he kind of bleeds on the page. His original script didn't have a lot of the ideas that would show up afterwards that come, originated in some of her books. So I'm like, there's no way that she didn't do the second script before he built off of it. Like even the thing about the where they go into hyperspace and you see the star stretch, that's something she had written in her book. She invented the idea. And we're going to say if she did no ghostwriting for the first one, I'm like, you're gaslighting us.
Yeah, there's and that's one of the things that, like, when you really look at Lucas and you see the things that what are the things that he says? I wish I'd invented Darth Talon. There's no underwear in space.
If you haven't learned yet, all guests on my podcast, they get a rap name. And so, Ben, your rap name is Benzino.
Benzino.
Yeah.
Like Zino? Or Xeno?
Z. Benzino, he was like one of the main editors for The Source back in the day. And he had beef with Eminem.
That's right. God damn. See, it's funny. I usually would get named that kind of stuff by other people. Like if there was anything Ben, if someone heard of Ben, so for years I could kind of get away with a Ben Kenobi thing, and I would be fine with that. I'd be like, yeah, no, tell me more.
I want to start wrapping up, so I want to talk about the glup shitto of the episode. I'm sure you already know the expression, glup shitto.
Yes, the randomness of the Star Wars names. That here's Glup Shitto, and there's like 10,000 tomes of fandom on him.
Okay, are you familiar with the character of Nivar Howell.
Nevar sounds very familiar.
Well,
He sounds like somebody. He sounds like somebody that would have been a Cantina alien extra. So he was a background extra in episode 4.
Yeah. And here's an almost exactly the same image, just different color grading, and like a few seconds later.
Wow. See, no, that's the most intense glup shitto I've ever seen. Because like at least all the ones in the Cantina at least had like, well, in the original trilogy before the edit, they had a shot. You know.
Okay. I'm going to give you a shit ton of information on this character and on this race. Just hold on. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was a brown-haired, black-eyed Renat in Zero BBY. He spent time on Mos Eisley Spaceport, Desert Tatooine. He saw local moisture farmer Luke Skywalker sell his X-34 land speeder to Will Slea, and he walked past the land speeder while wearing a brown robe. I know, super intricate information. Now, in Legends, this character is from Aralia. He slyly spied for the people. He spied on people to like steal their credits, and he was an outcast who worked as a laborer for the Sauron droid trader her check cow fast. I know once you see this character's face, you're like, oh, that dude.
Oh yeah, the Trandoshan guy. Yeah.
Yeah. In Legends, he used to work for him. Now, I decided, you know what? Let me try to find behind-the-scene information. Okay, apparently this character was in the original movie. This character's mask was designed by Stuart Freeborn and was consisted mostly of hard foam and fake hair. And the mask split into two when it was open to allow extras to be put in so when the foam closes in place with magnets. And in Star Wars canon, the character was finally named. It was the same name as in Legends. It was put into a reference book, but it was initially the character was given a name in Legends continuity in the 1995 Premiere Limited for the Star Wars customizable card game by Decipher.
CCG. Yep, my brother played that game. There was a lot of lore that came from that game.
Now, what I find hilarious is once you start finding more information about the alien creature, you start finding out more about why this character was created and what was the idea behind it. So this character was supposed to be just another stand-in for the same kind of alien creature that shows up in the actual Cantina, who looks almost exactly the same. It's just like this weird rat-faced creature in a robe. Eventually, they named that character Regisk, and this one was Nivar. But it's very clear that when they were developing this, they were like, I don't care who's who. We just need another rat guy. Like, it was not super intricate of like the lore ideas behind it.
Right.
So this is the design of what they were thinking of when they were first developing the costume.
God, I think I drew something almost identical to that years ago.
Yeah, it definitely does look like a young man's drawing.
It looks almost exactly like a D&D character in my old party for a friend that played a dragonborn mage that wore a robe like that. Same perspective angle and everything. I'll take a picture of it later and send it to you if I can find it.
Okay, during the production of the first movie, artist John Molo decided to create this rat-like alien creature in the costume sketches for the Cantina sequence. And it was this character on the production team was nicknamed Rodent and Ratface.
I love those.
So although Molo's drawing in the cloaked hooded figure was given a breathing mask, they decided to get rid of it like before they started principal photography in London.
Right.
And Regis was played by Sadie Eden, who also plays like the Gerdingan, the weird like Gonzo nose guy.
Yeah. Which the same race that plays the flute in the Mandalorian.
Yeah. So like a lot of this was just we just came up with a rat creature for the background, and we didn't have much ideas for it, and like all these like different source books and cards are like giving them like some kind of like names, and like even like in the Decipher games, like they were getting confused of like, okay, which character is who? Like which one is the right rat one? Like they didn't care. I just find all this hilarious.
Yeah, so much of that Glut Shippo stuff was just we need enough people to make this look right. And I know that there was something going on. I can't remember what it is about the shooting of the Cantina sequence in general that led to a lot of this stuff. I mean, like I remember Lucas being very upset about the race that they ended up finally using in Skeleton Crew as the big wolf head pirate guy. Because it was just an off the shelf werewolf costume head. Like there was nothing Star Wars about it. And it's like, well, that's everything Star Wars about it though. Like, why wouldn't there be an angry wolf race somewhere out there, like just walking around doing stuff? And maybe the Legends continuity about him dating that worm they edited out was a bad idea. Because that was weird. That was peak weird Star Wars was, oh yeah, the Wolfman's dating that worm thing. And that's
is it really Star Wars if there isn't questionable levels of you're asking, wait, is this bestiality? Is it really Star Wars if it doesn't have that element?
Yeah, because it's like because now like that's a really good but the bestiality question brings up an interesting because it's a sentience thing, right? Like where the line is between bestiality and consent. But part of that has been incorporated in a different way, in a non-sexual way, into the rules around the Mandalorian Mercs Costume Club. Because one of the big things now is about your trophies. Because of so who does Boba Fett have trophies of? Wookiee scalps, braided, famously. You can't do that with modern Mandos. I have Wookiee scalp. Initially, that's what I had them as, and I've retconned them to be Wampa. But it's because of sentience. A Wampa is as smart as a 12-year-old kid, fully developed. Like they're not a dumb animal. So Star Wars plays fast and loose with the rules of sentience.
So it's like a dolphin. Like it looks nothing like a human, but like it's as intelligent as like a fully developed human child.
But that's the thing. What with the obvious exception of time and culture, how can we say that there's a real difference between a Wampa and a Wookiee?
Right.
Like I'd say that Wampas might be a feral form of a Wookiee in some ways, like it's just a Wookiee's not been around people long enough or ever enough, because a pure feral Wookiee would be a nightmare, especially those beefy ones we finally got when we had enough actors that were of large frame to really give us battle Wookiee.
You mean like Black Chrysanthemum?
Black Chrysanthemum, or just any of those big Wookiees from episode 2 and 3, or episode 3 rather. Like those dudes were jacked under those furs. And it's so funny because it makes Chewbacca a skinny runt by comparison, whereas he's a big looking dude in the first 3 movies. Of course, if you know what the actor looks like, you're like, oh, well, that's why he's skinny and wearing a good costume that bulks him out. But then these dudes are just like, no, we're jacked under these things. like the new hut in the Grogu Mando movie that's jacked.
When I bring up a glup shitto to my guest, I like to ask them, what do you think about this character? What do you think this character's personality is like? And what would you like to see this character appear in next?
Well, I think that given they're a rodent-like people, they'd be in some way, I'd say he'd probably have a nervous energy about him, an anxiety that's organic. It doesn't seem like it may seem like anxiety to other races, but it probably just seems like efficiency to these people. And I
Okay.
think that if he's sort of a person who spies on other people in order to steal their money, he's probably a quick thinker. He probably spots opportunities easily and doesn't spend too long. Like he cases
Right.
somebody in a market and then he's emptied their pockets before they're gone.
Right.
And I don't think he thinks that what he does is wrong. I
Mm.
think that his race is probably in similar to Jawa's in that sense of like, no, this is just how we get stuff. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? We didn't strip that guy's stuff for parts. We took the parts that he wasn't actively using off of his speeder that was parked legally.
Yeah, like there's not much established lore about this one character, but if you go to his alien race in the Legends tab, it keeps going, like scrolls and scrolls of paragraphs. I'm like, God damn, there's no one gonna be able to read all this.
And how do you do that without having a driving character to be the reason you do that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we had two. We had Regrisk and we had this bloke.
And see, and that's the thing. People put so much into characters like Regrisk because they had that 2 seconds of screen time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Bat Lady.
Right.
You know, because that became a whole thing. You've got one of them in Outlaws.
Mm.
You know, so as far as what I like to see him in, I'd like to see, that's the kind of character I want to see pop up in something like Starfighter.
Okay.
Because it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like it's an OG connection without any backstory or meaning or weight. It is, and even better, not as a main character, not as a lead, as a walkthrough background extra.
Okay. See, I'm hoping, like, I want to see this character's day in the sun. I want to see him like actually do something.
I think it'd be great, but I would love to see them have the guts to just recycle a background character like that.
Yeah.
Give it maybe like an extra half second of pause.
Right.
So that you get that, like, you know, it's an intentional thing. So people have to look at it for a second to think about it. And then they catch it and they go, oh, they were so clever to do that. You know, we as fans kind of love that, you know? So I think that they can definitely give the guy his time in the sun. Maybe they flip it. They give him, he gets some screen time and Regrisk just walks through the background.
Let me pull up bring up the image again of Nerval for us. Like I appreciate a man that doesn't care about what society thinks and goes out in high heels. I respect that immensely.
That's a salsa heel. It looks like that's a
salsa
good heel. Yeah, no, I wore salsa heels in a play that I was in. I was in Tartuffe in college, and we had to wear full Restoration French period stuff. So in the black and whites, I kind of look like Captain Hook. And those salsa heels, as somebody who is not 6'1", let me tell you, it changed my perspective on men's shoes.
I really like this character, even though like we know very little about him other than like he's a thief and scavenger type. But this might sound crazy, but like I mean, I like the idea of him showing up a starfighter. I think him having like a very, very minor role, it would be nice. I think by that time, like he's definitely older. I see like him grow out like a big white beard, big white whiskers.
You mean like a straight up Splinter?
Yeah, like he comes out in Splinter, and
he's full of good wisdom too.
Yeah, but I think when he was young, like he had a very different vibe because I feel like the way he thinks, the way he acts is like kind of kleptomaniac.
Yeah,
he feels like he has to have that snatching, like taking other things because like he has like this compulsive need to like steal.
I think that has to be a cultural thing. Like that's just that seems like that would be such an instinctive sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like that's why he just does it. It's for us, it would be kleptomania, but for him, it's just survival. This is just what people do. This is what our people do. You need something. You take enough of it until you have it.
Navarre Honal. Like, I don't say this about a lot of characters, but for some reason, I get this vibe from this character is that he is a freak boy.
He could be.
He is freaked out. I think he is a chronic masturbator. I think this rat man is very horny, and I think that
rats are canonically horny.
Yeah, but I think another concept is like he needs that kind of stimulation, like stealing or self pleasure. Like I think like he's always like he needs like that like something that is like super interesting. Yeah, he needs that dopamine. I think he's a dopamine fiend. But I feel like once he starts getting to his old age and like he starts slowing down, like, he doesn't need it anymore. I feel like when he's old, he like when he was young, he was Prince Zuko. Now he is Uncle Iroh. He's definitely the character that you know how like they'll put like coca leaves into tea. That's him as an old man. To me, he is an old man sticking to coca tea. He just needs that little bit of stimulation to continue on with his day.
But back in the day, he was blowing lines off of Jabba the Hutt's tail.
Yeah, he broke his hip in his middle age, and he's just like, okay, I'm done stealing. I'm done. I almost died that one time. I'm good.
If Jabba the Hutt, if Jabba the Hutt is our Donald Trump, who is the Bubba in Star Wars? Bib Fortuna. That's the one. That's who he's blowing.
Yeah, but at the same time, how scandalous?
Actually, no. It would have to be before the fall of Alderaan. There's a video of Jabba the Hutt blowing Bail Organa.
Oh wow!
Because that would be like the Bill Clinton. That's the closest thing I can think of to a liberal president in Star Wars.
No. I got someone better, who has actually been compared to Bill Clinton by the creator. It's fucking shit. He was in episode 1 of Vote of No Confidence. Phineas Valorum.
There's a video, and it's not real, but there's a video of me, Jabba the Hutt, blowing Chancellor Valorum. It's not real. It's AI. It's fake news, people.
To me, Bail Organa has way better standards. Like
he's more of an Obama anyway.
I think Bail Organa is like, like to me, he is probably one of the best father figures in Star Wars, and I associate him with like, to me, he would have been even better to lead the galaxy than Mon Mothma, because I feel like he has a better level head, and he's like, okay, I'm going to see, like, we're not going to just end our program of our military. Like, something could still be out there. And she's like, no, we got to get rid of it.
Yeah, and he's like, that's one of the reasons why Thrawn.
But unfortunately, he died. Unfortunately, he exploded. So
yeah, but it is like it's the same thing with like Thrawn. Like, yes, Thrawn is trying to bring back the Empire, but do you know why? Because the thing that's coming is so much worse. Like, the Chiss know about the shit in the undiscovered realm regions, and they know it's coming, and they've been fighting against it for generations, and nobody believes them. And then Thrawn got, I don't know, just really into his work. He just really started enjoying what he was doing more than he cared about the Chiss.
Ben, before we close out, is there any questions or comments you have that you want to regale me with? Because my phone is about to die.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we hit the time limit anyway. No, man, this was fantastic. I know that I talked a lot about a lot of weird tangential stuff, but that's honestly, if you get me on anything, if you get me in a conversation, keeping me on target is just the Lord's work. It's difficult, and I'm the only one thanking you. I mean, the audience will thank you too, but. Yeah.
Well, remember, everyone that's watching, stay on target, and have a good day.
Yeah, please stay on target.